To this now, President Cyril Ramaphosa has approved the appointment of Mandisa Maya as the next Chief Justice. She'll start her new role on the 1st of September. Judge's Matter is Mbekezeli Benjamin. That's the organization he represents, and he joins us now. Mr. Benjamin, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. This was always going to be the case, yes. I think it was a few months ago when Judge Mandisa Maya was then officially nominated, and then the recommendation went to the president. Is this something that the country should have expected in any case?
Good evening, Mr. Mgambi, and good evening to the viewers. Yes, we should have expected it from the time of the nomination, because she was the only one nominated this time. So she was the only candidate. But it is still significant that it comes in right before we start Women's Month, that we have the first women Chief Justice of South Africa. It is symbolically significant because of that, right? It's the first time that a woman has reached this level of the legal community generally, not just the judiciary, but even the legal community. So it is a momentous occasion, and we are right to feel proud of that moment, because South Africa will now be counted as one of the few countries in the world that has a woman as their top judge.
Her experience on the bench speaks for itself. We can all remember back to those interviews that were done by the JSC. One of her last, or should I say, one of her more significant roles was that of the judge president at the Supreme Court of Appeal. Talk to us about her role there and what are some of the things that she emphasized when she was being interviewed for the position of Deputy Chief Justice.
Yeah, so Justice Maya served as the president of the Supreme Court of Appeal for 5 years, from 2017 to 2022. And in that period, she is credited for transforming the court, bringing in more women to be part of the bench, bringing in more Black judges to be part of that bench. And she also is credited with fostering some level of collegiality, because one of the big issues that came out during the JSC interviews was that there was a lot of bullying that was happening, a lot of racism. And so the environment wasn't welcoming to Black judges or to women judges. And so she managed to lead that court to transform in the sense of being able to be more accommodating of everyone in the full diversity of South Africa. But also, she managed to still maintain a high performance of that court. From the last report of her tenure, the court was finalizing 81% of the cases that it was dealing with, which made it the top performing court in the country. So she was credited with maintaining excellence in the court while still transforming the judicial or the demographic makeup of that judicial post of the country.
Yeah. Should we, as a country, automatically assume that transformation issues within the judiciary are now going to be firmly in the spotlight now that Judge or Justice Mandisa Maya is the next Chief Justice, or are there more other pressing matters that she will likely prioritize? So
transformation is a top priority, but the transformation that the Constitution envisages is not just replacing white faces with Black faces or replacing men with women. The Constitution has a more substantive vision of transformation. We do have a transformative Constitution, which means that the rights that are written in the Bill of Rights must be made a reality for the ordinary people of South Africa. That is the kind of transformation that is envisaged in the Constitution. That means it requires judges who will be able to understand the Constitution fully and apply it to all kinds of areas of the law, whether it is divorces, whether it is criminal law, whether it is land law. We need judges who would be able to apply the Constitution, and that is the transformation that I think will be a top priority for Justice Maya. Of course, transforming the institution of the judiciary itself, because for the longest time, there has been complaints, especially amongst judges, that the judiciary itself is not run by the judges. It is run by the justice minister and the officials in government. So when Justice Maya came for the interview, she said she wants to move the administration of the courts to be fully within the powers of the judiciary, so that judges are able to set the kind of budget that they need for them to be effective in the court, and also for them to administer the court in the way that will achieve justice for all South Africans. That is the transformation that she did speak about at the interview, and we hope that she'll now have a chance to follow through on that commitment that she made.
One of the questions that I am going to put to you is that very contentious issue right now of the former judge president. Now we refer to him as the impeached judge president, John Hlophe, being part of the Judicial Service Commission. I wonder how she's going to handle that, but that question you will answer in a moment. Talking about transformation issues, one of those that stood out, Mr. Benjamin, for me, when the current Chief Justice was addressing this, was the accessibility of the justice system to the poor. It's expensive, and if you're going up against a Goliath and you have nothing in terms of the financial resources, you really are at the mercy of those with very deep pockets. Is this something that you think she can firmly put on the agenda when we talk about the transformation of the judicial system?
Yeah, so the costs of bringing cases to court is very expensive. It is prohibitive. Most people cannot afford it, and that is the cause of it is multiple factors, some of which are really not in the control of the judges themselves. For example, they can't tell lawyers how much they should charge, which is probably one of the biggest costs in litigation, is the lawyers' fees. Judges can't tell how much lawyers should be charging, but there have been rules that have been brought into the law which regulates how much judges can, within limitations, how much judges can sort of limit the costs that the attorneys can claim. And that is something called the Rule 37 of the Uniform Rules of Court. And those rules came in April this year, and we've already seen judges take that up quite seriously, to say that you as a lawyer, you as an advocate, you can't charge any amount of money that you can. It has to be within a reasonable scale, and judges their duty is to police that scale and make sure that it is reasonable. Of course, it doesn't overnight cut the costs of going to court, but it does at least reduce them to some extent. And I think that is something that the Chief Justice can easily take up to inculcate within the entire court system. It shouldn't be only certain judges or certain courts that enforce that scale, but it should be across the board. And that is something that is within the powers of the Chief Justice. And of course, she would have to work with the other judges within the system. But for now, it is an ongoing debate how much it costs to go to court. And it is something that the Department of Justice, the Minister of Justice, should be championing.
Yeah. The last matter has to do with the Judicial Service Commission, and that's where Dr. John Hlophe, who now is the main leader of the opposition in Parliament, is going to be part of that JSC. There are those who are worried that he may have an axe to grind. There are also fears that some candidates will possibly ask him to recuse himself. How do you think the new Chief Justice will likely handle this?
So one of the advantages that Justice Maya has is, especially during 2022, she acted as the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission when Justice Zondo needed to be away. So she is well aware of how the Judicial Service Commission works. She is an effective chair. In fact, of the occasions that she has set as chairperson, we have finished before 7 o'clock. Usually we finish JSC interviews at midnight. So she is effective as chairperson, and I'm sure that if she was to now take charge fully as the chairperson of the JSC in the role of Chief Justice. She will be effective in enforcing the rules that have been written over how commissioners should behave themselves when they get to the JSC. She will obviously have to take care of the candidates who come before the JSC, and that is something that we as Judges Matter will be looking quite closely at her to take charge of the JSC and make sure that it protects the people who come before it. But of course, there is still litigation, as you know. The different political parties and other organizations have challenged the designation of Dr. Hlophe as a member of the JSC. That will still need to go through the courts, including the Constitutional Court, where Justice Maya will now be the head of. So there's still quite a process to be there, but we have every confidence that she will be able to be effective as the chairperson of the JSC.
Mbekezeli Benjamin is with the organization Judges Matter.